Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of Nepal Institute for International Cooperation and Engagement, I welcome you all to the International Young Scholars Summit 2020. I extend a very warm welcome to our distinguished chair for the session, Dr. Bharti Chhibber. Fellow scholars and participants who have joined us through Zoom and are watching us live on YouTube. We're glad to witness your presence today. This international forum aims to bring together rigorous and erudite young scholars from all around the world over a single platform. The aim is to create an academic space to encourage young scholars and academicians from the field of international relations, political science, diplomacy, public policy, administration, and related subfields. The conference was held for 3 days consecutively, and this is the 30th as well as the last session. The conference featured 275 scholars from 25 different countries who delivered their presentations and shared their understanding on various topics with us. The session is streaming live on our YouTube, so please feel free to share it on your social media handle with the hashtag IYSS2020. This is the 30th and the last session, as I mentioned before. To chair and moderate this session, it's a real pleasure to have with us Dr. Bharti Chhibber with us. Dr. Bharti Chhibber is an assistant professor at Lakshmibai College, University of Delhi. She has been teaching in Delhi University for about 16 years now. Her area of specialization being international relations and Indian foreign policy. She holds PhD from the School of International Studies, Jawaharlal Nehru University, and is the author of the book, Regional Security and Regional Cooperation, a comparative study of ASEAN and SAARC. In addition, she has regularly contributed articles and book reviews to mainstream journals and mass media. Without any further ado, ma'am, I request you to please take the session forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Paki, for that very generous introduction. And in the beginning, it's really my pleasure to be here to be chairing the last session, as Paki has just mentioned. And coincidentally, I was there in the third session that was almost in the beginning of the conference, and now I am here towards the end of the conference, the last session. So it's a pleasant coincidence and a very nice experience. And I also congratulate Dr. Jaiswal and the whole team for giving this platform to the young scholars, which is very, very helpful for them to learn as well as grow. So I think I'll begin with the first speaker, and then perhaps in between and towards the end, I'll reserve my comments. I think we have the second speaker. This is Ifrah. She is the research scholar from Jamia, Hamdard, India, and she'll be speaking on the pandemic and the migrant crisis. It's a very contemporary topic. So Ifrah, floor is yours.
Thank you. Am I audible?
Yes, Ifrah, you're completely audible.
Shall I start the presentation?
Please go forward.
Thank you. Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon to everybody who is watching me from different parts of the world. So I will today presenting on the pandemic and the migrant crisis. I'll be presenting in 3 different parts. Firstly, I'll be defining what pandemic exactly is. And after that, I'll be talking about its effect in India and then on the migrants. So first, what exactly a pandemic? A pandemic is defined as occurring over a wide geographic area and affecting an exceptionally high proportion of people. So as we all know, coronavirus pandemic affected almost all continents of the world, and India was no exception. So it all started in the Wuhan province of China, when a pneumonia of unknown cause was detected in early November 2019. It was only on 31st December that China informed the World Health Organization about the same. After that, the WHO declared it as the World Health Emergency and then declared it a pandemic. It was only in February 2020 that it was named as COVID-19. Then, as I said earlier, it spread to different parts of the world, like the US, Italy, Spain. India was no exception. India had the first case of coronavirus in early January, and the cases continued to spread and continued to increase. It was in March that our Prime Minister Narendra Modi decided to go for a nationwide lockdown in the country. India became the largest country in the world to have introduced the nationwide lockdown in order to fight against this deadly virus. With a population of about 1.3 billion, and it was the largest country to have introduced the lockdown, and 1.3 billion people were asked to stay at home. As a effect of this nationwide lockdown, everything stood still. Every service was suspended except the essential services, that is, the banks, the grocery shops, the medical facilities. Everything else was suspended, including the transportation. So, this nationwide lockdown, the sudden and the unplanned declaration of the lockdown, affected millions of lives. And the worst affected were the migrants, the daily wage laborers. So as I said, everything was suspended. So these migrants had no other option. They had no wages, no income. They had anxiety, the fear of getting infected, and the uncertainty about the future. These migrants had no other alternative but to go back to the native places. So with everything being suspended, these migrants had no way of commutation. So they decided to go back to the native places on foot. As they started their journeys, they walked frictionless towards their homes. They walked for endless hours. They walked for days to reach their home in hope for a future. So these migrants walked for hundreds and thousands of kilometers without food, water, or any other facility. What they had in mind that they had to reach home as soon as possible so as to start a new life there. They had this they had this positive mindset that leaving the big cities in which they came for in hope of a bright future, that going back to the native places would help them recover the loss that they have faced due to this unplanned and sudden lockdown. So while many of these migrants were managed to reach their home, there were some unfortunates who were left behind. They died on their way. These migrants included not just men, but there were elderly persons, women, children, and even the pregnant women. Women walked with their children on their waist and sacks on their head. They walked for kilometers, for hours, and for days without food and water. There's no reliable account on the number of people who were hungry, who were malnourished, and who died on the way. Many completed their journeys by cycling, either through cycling, hitching on rides, even in water tanks or even the milk vans. On their way back home, many felt nauseous and even they fainted on the way. They slept under the sky, they slept under the flyovers, they slept on busy roads because they had no other option, they had no other way of living. They had to go home. These migrants, they faced, these were the miseries that they faced. There were some incidents that took place on their way back home. So I'm just going to talk about 2 or 3 incidents that I know. So approximately 25 migrant workers were killed in Uttar Pradesh while they were traveling back their homes in a truck when their truck collided with another vehicle on the national highway. In another incident in Aurangabad, approximately 16 migrant workers were killed. They were walking for hours on the main road when they decided to leave the main road and to follow the rail tracks to avoid the police picketing on the main road. While they walked for kilometers on the rail tracks, they were exhausted. They decided at one point to take rest, to take a break, and then to continue their journey ahead. So they decided to rest for a few hours, and while they were resting, they went to sleep. And then that was the moment when an unfortunate incident happened. They had little knowledge about the trains because they had this in their mind that the trains were being suspended. But they didn't know about the goods and services train that was being run. So that goods and services train ran over them and killed as many as 16 laborers and migrants. Some by traveling through sea routes. There were migrants who traveled from Visakhapatnam to Bengal through sea routes, and they explained their journeys. They explained the horrific and the terrible experience that they had while traveling through the sea route. Their exodus journeys on the way back home, these migrants were not also accepted by the communities once they felt, they felt a kind of unacceptedness when they reached their homes because the communities there were feared about getting infected. They were not accepting them, and the miseries of these migrants continued even after reaching their homes. So I would like to conclude like this could have easily avoided or this could have easily delayed in a way if the lockdown would have been planned or it would not have been announced in a very short span of time that it was being announced. Maybe probably 4 hours before the Prime Minister announced the nationwide lockdown. And if we see the opportunities that they have on their way back home, Prime Minister Narendra Modi talked about local for vocal, encouraging local products and manufacturing so that they could help directly or indirectly these migrant laborers who are now heavily dependent on the agrarian economy. So what the government should do as a scheme, as what steps could be taken for them was to encourage these local entrepreneurships and to encourage the rural economy and the agrarian economy further. Thank you.
Thank you, Ifrah. Congratulations. That was a very good presentation. Well, I just have two observations. You can note it down, and probably at the end, when we have a discussion, you can think about it and share your views. One, the reason for the sudden announcement of the lockdown was to ensure that people they do not mix and there's no COVID problem. So had it been announced earlier, the lockdown, it would have resulted in everyone coming out and buying groceries and other things and probably flying out of the country or trying to come in and all. So that would have defeated the whole purpose of containing COVID. So that's one aspect. And secondly, Ifram, the title of your paper is Pandemic and the Migrant Crisis. So it's a kind of a suggestion and advice that the title of our presentation or our paper, it should be so clear and crisp that it should highlight what exactly we are going to say about. Um, because what I understand from your presentation, you have just focused on India, right? And you have spoken on the labor migrant crisis. So probably in your title itself, you can include the word labor, India, because the migrant issue is not confined to India, as you also know. There has been an issue of incoming and outgoing people also. There's an issue of diaspora also. So migrant issue is a very large issue. So probably if you want to just confine yourself to this particular aspect, probably one or two additional words in your title, they will be very helpful, right? Okay.
Sure,
So
ma'am.
we
Thank you.
go to yeah. So we go to the next speaker. Next we have Sanchana Srivastava. She is a postgraduate from Central University of Jharkhand, and she has a very interesting topic on prognostication of the relations between European Union and the United States. So Sanchana, floor is yours.
Miss Sanjana, are you there?
Yeah, I can see her. She's there on this. Yeah, she's there.
Maybe she's not the
Yeah.
co-host. I'll see to the issue. Just give me a second. Sanchana, there might have been a notification on your screen. Please unmute yourself. Also, you're the co-host. You can now unmute yourself. Ma'am, I guess that she's facing certain technical glitches, so maybe we can proceed to the next speaker and we can have her next.
Yeah, we'll come back to Sanchana in a while. Till then, we go to the next. Next, we have Syed Maqsood Sadat. He's a PhD candidate. I think he's there, right? Yeah, he's there. Okay. So Syed Maqsood Sadat, he's a PhD candidate from Gujarat University, India, and he'll be speaking on another interesting topic, that is role of regional actors in Afghan peace process. So, Syed, yeah, please go ahead.
Yes, ma'am. Good evening, everybody. I'm Syed Maqsood Sadat. I'm originally from Afghanistan, a PhD candidate in Gujarat University. I'm here to speak on the role of regional actors in Afghan peace process. Let me begin by saying that Afghanistan has lost the key for peace, the key for prosperity, the key for development. And the struggle to find out the key has been decades, since it's been more than 4 decades that Afghanistan is struggling to have a prosperous and peaceful country. And struggle stretches from east to west, from Russia to America, from Pakistan to Saudi Arabia, and the last, which happened after the 9/11, the Bonn conference was supposed to be a very constructive conference for Afghanistan, but in a way it also failed. And today's what is now, which is currently going on, is the Doha conference. The Doha conference, which is also called intra-Afghan dialogue or intra-Afghan negotiation. It is also considered to be a very vital and very historical event for Afghanistan. In this particular event, what I observe personally is a battle, is a competition between two political order, two political concept, which is republic and emirate, where the Afghan delegates are trying to safeguard the diplomatic, the democratic values, such as elections, such as freedom of rights, freedom of speech, freedom of movement, women rights, and so on. Whereas on other hand, the Taliban delegates are trying to safeguard what they insist is the Islamic values of their own interpretation. And what they believe is that uh, Afghanistan needs to have an Islamic emirate. So this is the domestic issue. The peace process of Afghanistan is not limited to only peace to domestic issue. There's also international and regional factor to this. This I can find on Saudi, Iran kind of competition that they have among the Islamic countries, and also the kind of conflict which is going on between India and Pakistan, and overall the competition or the struggle between US and Russia. So coming on Pakistan, Pakistan is considered to be a key role player in Afghanistan. No doubt it is a key role player in Afghanistan. In 1979, when Afghanistan was occupied by the Soviet army, Pakistan, with the collaboration of United States of America and Saudi Arabia, did a lot in to assist the Afghan Mujahideen in a struggle against the Soviet army. And in 19th, and Pakistan was a key instrumental in radicalization of Afghan war. What is dominantly understood by Afghan political elites that Pakistan has a strategic dip, views Afghanistan as a strategic dip in case of any military escalation with India. And since Trump administration, India, Pakistan has been under the pressure, and the result what we see is the Doha conference, which is rightly going on. What I believe, what I think is that Pakistan needs to decouple the Afghan peace process from India-Pakistan conflict, and it will help the country to re-image itself what is known as a state state-sponsored terrorism to a distinct regional player. Coming to Iran, after Pakistan, Iran is considered to be the second largest and the second influential country in Afghanistan. Replacing Pakistan, Iran became the largest trade partner of Afghanistan. Iran is taking a proactive strategy in Afghanistan, and a kind of common understanding and common perception I can see with the Iranian government and the Taliban group. And that is nothing but the perception that they have against the American troops in Afghanistan. So that perception made them to have some contact, and there is also reports that the Iranian government had helped some portion of Taliban also. So, overall, Iran is considered to be a very important and a very important neighbor of Afghanistan. Iran hosts millions of Afghan refugees, and it is a good destination for Afghan laborers. But there is a mistrust among Afghan political leaders regarding Iran that the country has used the Afghan refugees in Syrian warfare. The Fatimiyun militancy consists of more or Afghan refugees. Coming to India, India is considered, that what is believed about India, that India is looking forward to have the strategic interest through soft power in Afghanistan. India is the largest regional donor of Afghanistan, and as a strategic partner, which was signed in 2011, India helped a lot the Afghan army in course of equipment, in course of training and all. Soft power helped the country to acquire a very good and very popular reputation among Afghan locals. India is considered to be the most famous destination for Afghan locals in case of tourism, in case of medical stays or education. And as a strong supporter of Afghan government and Afghan constitution, India opposed any kind of official contact or any official relation with Taliban, which when the things go wrong between America and Pakistan, India had to come forward, but it refused. Coming to conclusion part, let me say that the regional players such as Russia, China, and Iran, they have a common understanding of fight against the terrorism and narcotic in the region. And India, Iran, and Afghanistan has a common, their interests actually converge in the terms of commercial and economic, and the route to get access in Central Asia. But in post-settlement Afghanistan with Taliban, the Indo-Pakistan factor remains a matter of concern among Afghan political elites, and obviously with hope and scares. After legalization, to what extent Taliban may behave independently considered to be the key dynamic of India's future in Afghanistan. So here I'd like to say that Afghan diplomatic machinery needs to get engaged actively with the regional and international actors to advocate its stand, the stand for the republic, for the democratic values such as human rights, such as women's rights, such as freedom of speech, and so on. So I don't think that it's only for Afghanistan or for the Afghan government. It's also for the whole region to participate and actively and constructively in peace process. And in future, they may be measured individually against their foreign policy action. To sum up my argument, I would like to say that now that the regional and international consensus on peaceful Afghanistan has been created, so it is for Afghanistan to use the chance, and Afghanistan is in the crucial juncture. It may augur well for U.S., for United States of America, to encourage all the regional and and international actors to complete the peace process successful. Thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
Sayed, again, it was a very good presentation, and I think you tried to touch upon wider aspect of the problem, covering lot many actors. And one point about the soft power in the context of India, especially in terms of infrastructure development, I think that's one very critical aspect, and probably you can develop that portion much more when you write a big or the longish paper on the same subject. I have two queries. Perhaps at the end, if you can just talk about it, your views on that. You very briefly mentioned towards the end role of Russia. So, what do you think is the role of Russia in the present context, since US is the one which has brokered the peace? And the second is European Union. Do you feel or do you see European Union playing any kind of role in the Western powers in the Afghan peace process, or in terms of a better future for Afghanistan? So just think about it, and probably at the
Sure,
end we can have a discussion.
sure. Thank you.
Okay, so I think we'll go to the next speaker. Sanchana, you will be able to manage now?
Yes, ma'am, I'm so sorry for the network issue.
No problem, Sanchana. It happens, technology. So I'll just quickly introduce you once again. So we have Sanchana Srivastava as next speaker, and she's a postgraduate from Central University of Jharkhand, and she'll be speaking on prognostication of the relations between European Union and the United States. So over to you, Sanchana.
Thank you so much, ma'am. A very greetings of the day to respected chairperson and all the panelists. So a very warm good evening. So the topic of it's an honor to be a part of International Young Scholars Summit. I would like to thank Pramod Jaiswal sir for organizing. And the topic of my presentation is prognostication of the relations between United States and European Union. So the transatlantic relations, or the European Union or the EU relations, which is basically considered, it is considered as an important bilateral relation in the world. This partnership has thrived and flourished for almost 6 decades now, and it is constructed on solid foundation of democratic process, free enterprise, respect of human rights, and assuaged poverty. And these shared values, combined with deeply interdependent and interconnected transatlantic economy, and the relationship is based on trust and confidence. For the past 7 decades after the World War II, this relationship has gone through several ups and downs. So I'll just go to the brief history. It was after the World War II that European Union was recovered through United States of America by implementation of Marshall Plan, and also the fall of Berlin Wall in November 9th, 1989, which led to subsequent disintegration of the communist countries. And since from then, they both share a strong bond between and serve and have remained united together in number of common interests and issues. But in the present condition, what we see, this is a worst condition in the Trump administration. We see that there are policy disagreements like defense spending, when US withdraw from Paris Peace Accord, or nuclear deal with Iran, sanctions in Cuba and Iran, digital taxation, and relocation of US embassy to Jerusalem instead of Israel. Secondly, there's an unprecedented ideological shift, and US supports hard Brexit, and there's a mismatch between the rhetoric and foreign policy professional. So when we prognosticate the relationship between the two countries, we can find that when we look over to Russia, firstly, the need of the hour is to strengthen financial intelligence, information sharing, transparency measures, and new approaches to arms control. Another contentious issue is South China Sea, where all the countries are 7 countries, namely, they claim sovereignty over these waters, and hence making this region a very strategic and whatsoever control of the region will benefit the most. So both the countries are having a vested interest in South China Sea. Third is economic and trade. So both the countries should institute a high level of dialogue. And current China's WTO case, which is the matter of concern, they have to defend the rule-based international trading orders with China. China, both the countries have to avoid divergent and competing policies and make opportunity to align their efforts to Asia Pacific and build a common trade strategy. Israel-Palestine issue. The next issue, there should be a consultative mechanism between both the countries, and potentially peace is the need of the hour in the region. Multilateralism, the EU should take a similar line to patient multilateral strategy that is successfully was developed during the George W. Bush administration, and it should stick to global strategy also. And next, energy and climate change, where both the countries recognize that it possesses significant power and influence within Paris Agreement. They should work globally with and alongside China to maintain and improve standards and regulations. Western Balkan, they need to have a high level of dialogue and enhance anti-corruption mechanism. Then Eastern Mediterranean and Turkey, they should have a high level of dialogue and include a focus on how NATO can support the EU in dealing with humanitarian and migration aspects of instability. Africa also high level of dialogue is needed. Recent arms control and INF pact which was concluded, the need of the hour is that Trump administration should suspended US participation in the INF pact. So it has also raised a series of contentious. It has also raised issue of concern that the Trump administration is divergent in so many issues. So to conclude, I would say I had actually analyzed the background history of the relation, the current and the future, on what areas the two countries need to cooperate and collaborate together. So hope so the upcoming presidency brings a strengthening ties and the bond will flourish and thrive in upcoming decades. Thank you so much.
Very good presentation, Sanchana, and I especially like the number of aspects where you feel that the two can collaborate. Just two observations. One, probably it may be by oversight, you were referring it as two countries again and again. So, well, one is a country and other is a regional organization. These are not two countries. So, probably if you can, because you're talking about European Union, right? European Union and United States, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so probably you can talk about a regional organization and US. That's just an observation. But otherwise, as I said, good presentation. I have a query which you again can answer at the end, Sanchana. Well, European Union, of course, got a fillip and a push from United States initially, which you have tried to mention when you mentioned the trajectory of the evolution of the relations between the two. But it has been criticized a lot that because of American influence, European Union could not forge a independent foreign policy of their own. For example, on the issue of Israel or on the issue of Greece, they could not come up with a political foreign policy, a kind of a combined foreign policy of European Union. Again, because they were under the umbrella of United States. So, what are your observations on this? So, probably you can share your views on that. Yeah. Okay. So again, we can go to the next speaker. Next, we have Ankita. Ankita is a student from Sir J.J. College of Architecture, Mumbai University. Well, it's indeed a very multidisciplinary kind of a panel. We have people from different spheres and disciplines, and we have somebody from architecture also. Nice to see Ankita your interest in this area, and she'll be speaking. She's from the Mumbai University, speaking on sustainability, the story of the future. Over to you, Ankita.
Yes, ma'am. Shall I start my share screen?
Yeah, please go ahead, please.
1 minute.
Ankita, you'll be sharing it on your own, or do I share it for you?
Since I was meet the co-host, so I thought I will share it. Do you want to? Okay, you can share it as well.
I think you can for yourself, so you can do it on your own. Otherwise, you'll have to say next after every slide.
Yeah, okay, 1 minute. Is it visible?
Yes, Ankita, that's absolutely visible.
Just give me a minute.
Give it.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ankita, please go ahead. Yeah, it's visible.
So hello everyone, I am Ankita Ranke and I am a student of third year of Surgery College of Architecture. And I'll be talking about the sustainability, which is actually going to be the story of the future in terms of settlements, in terms of urbanization, and in terms of the building construction that is going to take place. So yes. So moving on to the next, before talking about what is going to happen in the future, let's talk about what is present situation. What is this present situation? What rapid urbanization has led to? Indeed, it is slums, right? So the spaces have turned their color gray, and the freshness has yet lost in the shades of green. And we realize that we are right now living in a concrete jungle. And this shall not, the urbanization shall not, the urbanization has moved itself to such an extent, like we have lost the words of landscape in the words of modernization. So what is sustainable architecture for me? A cultural practice in building up spaces revised in conceptualizing architecture. So crowded and compact spaces emerge over and over the following years. How, as an architecture student, can I help in town planning? I wonder. So before eco cities or to think on a larger scale, we move on to the smallest unit, and that is the neighborhood layout. So when thinking about the neighborhood layout, a design model that speaks of adapting social, cultural, and ecological aspects along with already what is built. Keeping that in context, yes, that are supported by arguments of cohesive way shall be considered as sustainable architecture. Targets are made to lay out complexities and with integrated methods. And then, when the communities are once settled and follow the norms of sustainable development, next comes the chapter of eco-cities. So when the sustainable communities are formed by paying attention to the ongoing activities and building up the natural environment along with social well-being by communities, then we move on to the eco-cities, right? Modern technologies sometimes create the gap between the environmental protection and retrieving the services to people. These students learn urban cities as well as town planning in our college years. The rest is seen practice in real life. Modern world still captures sustainable practices, right from building construction to transportation, waste management, and energy efficiency. Rapid urbanization leads to urban growth left unplanned, incoherent, and fragmented. The future story hereby tells as that with the increase of population and lack of town planning in three dimensions shall destroy the harmony between neighborhood besides the environment. Therefore, in the present era, attaining coherent and sustainable neighborhood fits in the right scale of achieving a goal. Moving on to the next, which is the eco-cities. So we focused on first, which was the neighborhood layout. Then we focused on communities, and then we shall talk about eco-cities that shall form. Urbanization patterns differ largely and planning grows uneven with the settlements. The population is scattered informally in the settlements, might even refer to them as slums of chaos. This chiefly encompasses the question of how cities are to be supervised, comprehended, analyzed, and strategized to monitor advanced techniques in planning and maintain their influence over sustainability, allowing us to examine the wicked issues and the unsettled problems to overcome them. They are also accompanied with the everyday complex challenges embodied within. Okay, so coming back to the story of the future, I shall speak about what is going to be happening in the future. Backcasting the sequence in which future environment is envisioned and to be designed, we start aiming and desiring for a smart, sustainable neighborhood owing to the present conditions following the steps. Future and its linking to the goals planned during the present course, we are set on a journey that proceeds in the direction of sustainability. The issues regarding the current urban settlement forms being solved in the coming years is a looked upon image for us in the future, isn't it? The future habitation is nothing but the thought of simplified, sustainable, and viable theory of cities and settlement planning, predominantly backed by scholars. So, coming up of distinctive forms and acts of optimization, the space of the union is examined by the range of distinctive characteristics of the data derived from the key studies. A city would unite with those of the unified prototype models of sustainable urban form and are characterized as data-driven smart sustainable urban form. Sustainable cities are less relying on fossil fuels, and ultimate goal is to save energy and adapt to renewable forms of energy, habitually being self-sufficient and energy neutral. These are the sectors where countries look forward in saving and boosting the economy along with it. So the impactful decision is yours to make. As for my vision, I shall see my future self being placed in a smart, sustainable city where the communities acknowledge the environmental issues along with the social issues which are interrelated. Sustainable communities shall recognize the sensitive interface between what is built already and along with the mother nature as well, and as a central aspect. Understanding the pollution levels and shifting away from the wasteful practices, considering the impacts on developing townships shall be observed. The spirit of the idea revolves around the necessity to connect, analyze, and impact the surge of urban data that has hitherto been most linked with smart cities, yet has strong interactions in the effective working, developing, and sustainable cities in terms of defining, evolving, and preserving the environment to sustainability. So the story remains unfinished and is yet to be completed. I am no longer wondering my contribution towards sustainability. I shall follow sustainable architecture practice and thrive back to the youngsters, educating about them sustainability in another story. Just give me a second. Thank you. What is the use of a house if you don't have a decent place to put on? So that's why follow sustainable practices is all I have to say. Thank you.
Very nice presentation, Ankita. Absolutely, you covered the whole gamut of sustainable cities, sustainable communities, smart cities that India is working on. I just have a query, which of course, like other participants, you can answer at the end. Rather, two queries very related. One, India is going big way in terms of solar power and also wind power, but especially solar power. So one, how do you see India achieving the targets that we have by 2022? One, and the second, you mentioned that it's a kind of a correlation between economy, society, and of course sustainable environment. Okay, so could you elaborate on the correlation between these three? Because definitely it has a very, very important correlation. So probably you can answer at the end, right? Okay, now we have the final speaker for the session as of now. We have Raza. Is he here? Raza, is he here?
I'll check.
Yeah, please.
Ma'am, I cannot see him as of now, so maybe you can proceed towards the second round, the question answer round, and till then I can get in touch with him.
Sure. So just a quick check. So we don't have Indranil as of now. We don't have Bhuvna. Sunaina, Karki is also not there, and Raza is also not there, right?
Yes.
Okay, fine. Fine. Okay, great. Then in that case, we can come back to the observations. But before that, congratulations to all the participants, speakers. You have done some amazing work, and I was very, very happy with the kind of presentation. Being young scholars, your presentation was very, very crisp. It covered a wide gamut of issues, and it was multidisciplinary. That was the beauty of this I think session, that people from different dimensions, from international relations to political science to peace building to architecture, so we have people from different arenas and disciplines. So once again, congratulations to all the paper presenters. So probably we can come back to the participants in terms of the observations. One, they can share their observations on the queries or question that I raised, and also if they want to add something to their presentation. So we can begin with Ifrah. Ifrah, would you like to share your views, something you want to add, and also in terms of my observations? Ifrah?
If you can unmute yourself, you're a co-host. Also, I've sent you a notification if you're unable to.
Shall we go to the next? Yeah. Okay. Sanchana, would you like to share your views? Something you want to add and or answer my observations?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, please go ahead, Sanchana. Again, it was a good presentation. Yeah, go ahead, Sanchana.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, your question was like the United States is no, sorry, European Union, which is an organization, or the European countries, they do not have an independent foreign policy. As United States has supported it in a number of other issues. But on the other hand, we can also see that it is one of the it's a very interesting paradigm for other countries of regional integration. Like we South Asian countries can also take it as an example for a better regional organization, which any and regardless of the independent, it is depending on America, a number of other issues. My observation was that it's basically it's also have its own independent foreign policy rather than taking help of Americans. So,
Okay, fine, Sanchana. Sanchana, I would suggest, I mean, of course, you can get in touch with me anytime you feel like. Just read couple of more readings on this, because European Union is kind of a pooling of sovereignty. The countries, they have come together, they have their common European Parliament, they have their common currency. And in South Asia, we can't even have a proper functional cooperation. So forget about pulling off your sovereignty or coming up with a SARC parliament or a common currency. So European Union cannot be emulated in South Asia, because the things are very different in terms of the background of the two organizations and area. So perhaps a little bit more reading will definitely help you. But otherwise, it was a very good presentation. Again, we move on to the next. Next, we have Sayed. Sayed, would you like to share your views in addition to what you
Yes,
have already
please.
shared? Yeah.
Actually, the topic which I have choose was a bit broad, and as a lack of time, when I understood that I have only 10 minutes to speak, then I stick on the major actors such as Pakistan, India, and Iran on this topic. And about your observation, which you told me about the soft power of India, yeah, I do understand. I can overall I can summarize that India has taken a developmental strategy in Afghanistan, and then the country has done a lot. But in case of peace process, which is currently going on, India has taken a bit low profile. It has stick to support the government, support the constitution. I believe that there might be a concern in New Delhi that in case if a treaty is agreed in Doha, which can restore the kind of regime which be pro-Pakistan, I mean like Emirate. So by this concern, I think that India choose to be supportive of the government only. And about you also touch upon European Union and then United
Russia.
Nations. Yes, Russia. Yes, also. Russia actually the current initiative, which is known as Doha Initiative. It is done by the leadership of United States of America. So, uh, United States United States has ignored some potential actors in this initiative, which one is the Russian. And we do believe that the Russia has the potential to come forward, but the Russia and Iran is ignored. And in the inauguration ceremony, which I was following very tentatively, I didn't see the Iranian representative to speak officially, and the Russian representative. I think they were not invited, despite that the 15 countries were invited to speak on this. And uh, on European Union and United Nations, they are very supportive of the Afghan government and Afghan people. They, in a way, they're trying to safeguard the achievement which have been achieved through past 2 decades. I mean, since fall of the Taliban regime. But still, we cannot judge right now. Let's see what be the outcome of the intra-Afghan negotiation.
Fine. Good. Very good, Sayed. I think you have summarized it very beautifully. Okay. Of course, we'll come back to you in case there's any question in the chat box.
Sure.
Yeah. Next, we have Ankita. Ankita, would you like to share your views?
Yes, ma'am. Indeed. So the question that was raised was about how sustainability is related or relatable with social, economical, and other aspects. So, as a country, we think about the economy that is going to uh, that is always going to be there, and how the future shall be looked upon, because when we look upon the case that is being take place in Mumbai, that is the Dharavi slums. It is the biggest slum in Asia, and if one slum increases the other, and hence the the chain goes on, and that's why we should be working together to shape our future of the cities as one, and follow proper practice that is being followed. That's all I wanted to say. So that's why I created the three aspects, which are the neighborhood layout, and the cover, then the sustainable communities and the eco cities. Instead of directly moving onto the eco cities to speak on. That's it.
Fine. Good answer there, Ankita. Okay. Now, again, I think Paki has already done that in the chat box. But once again, I remind all our audience that in case you have any query from our participants, please feel free to write your questions in the chat box. Okay. Ifra, if you can hear us, then would you like to share your views? Yeah, okay. So just a quick observations for our participants who have done extremely well, the speakers who have done extremely well. Well, one will be for Sanchana. Sanchana, it's a very interesting topic that you have taken in terms of talking about the future of US and European Union foreign relations. And I think you have briefly touched upon NATO towards the end of your presentation. And since the NATO members and the European Union members, they overlap, although they have been a different purpose for the formation of European Union and NATO, but since the members overlap and both are supported by United States, so would you like to elaborate on NATO? Because I think you uh, just glanced on it very quickly. So would you like to elaborate on US and NATO relations? Would you like to do that?
Yes, ma'am, sure. So
Yeah, go.
NATO was formed really at the time of the Cold War.
Mhm.
NATO and Warsaw Pact, which was formulated, and so I mentioned in my presentation that high level dialogue is needed by US to support EU in dealing with number of migration aspects or humanitarian aspects, and it should also take part in number of other affairs of European Union. Taking aside European Union, NATO and US relations, of course, it's the treaty organization which was formed. It was really supportive for all the allies member states, and it has established a productive regional collaboration, and it has been a key pillar for US foreign policy, for its defense policy, and basically, ma'am.
No, that's
So
fine. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. That's absolutely fine. Okay, Sayed, since you are from Afghanistan, as you shared during your introduction, so in your views, what is the future of Afghan-US peace process? Do you see it going to be bringing about a lasting peace in Afghanistan, or do you feel that there are some lacunas which need to be covered to bring about lasting peace?
Thank you, ma'am. I think that Afghanistan has gone through warship in many decades. It's 4 decades, more than 4 decades that Afghanistan is going to under different kinds of warship. Whether it was communism, whether it was terrorism or civil war, it was all about fighting and war. So we cannot conclude in 4 decades of war in maybe in 1 or 2 years. And we had same kind of what's right now is currently going on in Doha. Same thing we had in 2001, which was known as the Bonn Conference in Germany, and it had its own failure. The failure was one of the failure can be understood now is that they didn't include uh, Taliban that time. If they could have included that time, like now we would have been in a better position. So same stuff also lacking in this intra-Afghan negotiation, which is currently going on in Doha. That some I pointed on the lack of regional actors participation engagement. I mean constructively participation and the lack of uh, this is Taliban is the one of the major issue in Afghanistan, but there are other group also like functioning the same way, like other radical groups. Maybe I can name the Afghani network, which is same like Taliban or other groups. So but this negotiation, if it goes successful, I think it will make the platform for fighting the terrorism and extremism in Afghanistan or the whole region. It make easy. It will be a good, but I don't think that we can achieve a peaceful country in like a month or year something. It may goes like uh, uh, minimum 5 years it may take. Let's see. Let's hope for the best.
No, absolutely. As you said that let's hope for the best. And India being such a close friend of Afghanistan, we also hope that there is peace in Afghanistan and as soon as possible, and something which is called sustainable and long-lasting peace after decades of suffering that people of Afghanistan have faced. So our good wishes will always be with you, and we hope to see peace in our neighborhood and in Afghanistan. So yeah, okay. I think then I'll have another. Yeah. Yes, Paki.
Sorry to interrupt, but ma'am,
Yeah.
I guess that Raza sir has joined us, so maybe we can have him as the speaker.
Asha Raza has joined.
Yes.
Okay. 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 Raza, you can hear us? You can hear us?
So you must have received a notification to unmute yourself. Please unmute yourself.
Okay, we have our final speaker. He has just joined us. He's Raza, and he is, yeah, Raza is a student. He's from Antananarivo University in Madagascar, and he'll be speaking on empowering green economy in post-COVID-19 world order. So we'll have another presentation on economy and environment. So please go ahead, Raza. Okay, Ankita, I have, it's a very interesting presentation in which you spoke about different dimensions of sustainable communities and future of housing and future of relation between economy and society and environment. But Ankita, I'm sure that you're aware that in order to have sustainable communities or sustainable development or a sustainable country, you need to have coordination between different people from different stakeholders, right? From
Right.
government, from industry to people, the common masses, to producers. Uh, what is your take in terms of waste management? Because even if we go for solar system or we go for wind power, there's always waste generation in terms of plastic and the batteries. So what is your take in terms of waste in terms of waste management, because that's a very important aspect of sustainable communities.
Yes, yes. So the things aren't going too well right now. Every forthcoming day adds to the insecurity about instantaneous and long-term impact of the pandemic as well. So whether you think that the people are exaggerating or are truly on even if the health issue comes in the picture due to the waste management, millions are getting affected to it due to the uh, to the compactment and the crowdness of the everything. So that's why housing has been the keynote of all the problems. So that's why the government of India recently unveiled the National Declaration on Urban Governance, and which is the housing for all, and it is yet to be committed to provide housing by the year 2022. And since we were talking about the other resources such as the solar energy and wind energy and uses of all the renewable energy, so these all uh, these all amenities will be included in the housing or in the future projects as well. It will be slow, but when it will really happen. So along with it, the problems of like toilets, electricity, drinking water, and other amenities should be solved with it. And the maintenance of cleanliness, hygiene, and indoor air quality has become more than important ever. So yes, we are looking for it forward.
No, absolutely, Ankita, and India is doing very well in terms of renewable energy because multiple times we have revised our aim in terms of having the gigawatt energy that India will be planning uh, by 2022. So that shows that we actually are moving towards that in big way. Uh, that's great. Okay, so Paki, has Raza able to so once again, then thank you all the participants, all the speakers, and of course our wonderful audience for this very engaging session. And I especially, in addition to the wonderful presentations that our young scholars have given, I especially liked the interaction that we had. And finally, I would also like to thank Dr. Jaiswal and the whole team for giving me this opportunity to chair this brilliant session. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Thank you. Distinguished Chair, ladies and gentlemen, as we come to the end of the International Young Scholars Summit, I deem it a great honor to propose a vote of thanks on behalf of NICE to all those who have graced us with their presence and contributed their parts to make this event a resounding success. First of all, we would like to express our gratitude and sincere thanks to our chair, Dr. Bharti Chhibber. Our sincere thanks also goes to Dr. Pramod Jaiswal, who's the man behind the idea of the summit. Sir, it's really been a pleasure organizing this event with you. We would like to acknowledge our gratitude to our friends from the diplomatic community, experts, academia, media, and different organizations. An event like this cannot happen overnight, and we have been fortunate enough to be backed by a team of very motivated and dedicated staff here at NICE. The interns and the volunteers, be it Gauri, be it Krishna, be it anyone else, all of us had put in their efforts all together, and this is what made this event a success. Without their untiring efforts, this event actually wouldn't have been possible. I cannot thank everyone enough for their involvement and willingness, of course. I would also like to take this opportunity to place on record our sincere thanks to each and every scholar who had applied for the summit. We had initially intended for a one-day event, however, on receiving an overwhelming response for over 400 applicants, we thought to actually exceed the time of this summit. That is why this summit turned out to be for 3 days. We're so glad that we did it, and we could do it, and we can do it much more better. We look out for your feedback in future. Finally, I must mention our deep sense of appreciation for our Zoom audience, those who are watching this live on our YouTube channel. Thank you for your valuable time and attention. We hope that you keep supporting us in future as well. We are truly honored to have you all with us, and we hope to stay connected with you in future. It's really been a pleasure. Thank you.